Salut ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim and welcome to the Sounds German review of the new album by the apokalyptischen Reiter called Der rote Reiter. It's the sixth album by this German metal band that has been actively releasing albums since the late 90s, and they mix all different sorts of mostly metal influences, but you can also often find non-metal elements sprinkled into the mix here. The result so far has been quite the unique mix of influences that makes their music pretty distinctable. When you listen to the apokalyptischen Reiter, you will recognize them, even though their style certainly changed a bit over the years, with influences and elements coming and going. Something that makes them stand out a bit, because it's just not that usual for this style of music, is that many of their songs have a very positive, life-affirming song text that calls out for a positive outlook on life or togetherness, something like that. Meanwhile, they also often play with the eponymous horsemen of the apocalypse, of course. The opener, Wir sind zurück, on this album, however, hits completely on the positive side of things, celebrating their return with their fans and to their fans. I really like these kinds of tracks, and this one isn't an exception, with its playful riffing and driving drums, while vocalist Fuchs calls out the fans directly and tells them that if they're up for it, they will start a fire that reaches the skies. I still have a nitpick though. The lyrics pretend to reference prior events, and as far as I can tell, it doesn't really reference any old songs. The Reiter certainly have enough beloved tracks under their belt to fill a song with references to those songs, and I would have loved to see them do just that. But still, for an opener, it's a great track. It celebrates not only the band and their return, but also the fans who have stuck with them. The second track on this album is by far my personal favorite, and that is the eponymous Der rote Reiter. The horseman represents war, and this song represents him perfectly. Instead of the usual clean or screamed vocals, Fuchs shows some surprisingly deep growls, which I don't think I've ever heard from him before. The song mixes harder, up-tempo verses with a noticeably slower hook, while Fuchs goes on about how the world will be drowned in blood and that war is an unstoppable force. In the bridge, Fuchs' vocals go clean again, and he really shows here that he can sound just as sinister as when he is growling. You might think clean vocals in the hook might somehow deter from the whole war atmosphere, but no, Fuchs really managed to strike a great balance here with sounding just as evil as you would imagine war to be without screaming or growling. Sadly, I can't say as many positive things for most of the rest of the album. The worst offender probably being Auf und Nieder, which is phrase-mongering at its worst. And while this has nothing to do with the album, the official video for that track is also probably one of the worst I've seen in a very, very long time. Kinda fitting. The great experience of ecstasy comes along with some nice heavy riffs and English lyrics for the most part, but it's absolutely nothing special, especially with the sort of prayer-like intro. I hoped for something kinder, well, I guess far out or trippy for the song, but it quickly turns into pretty generic, uncreative metal for this band. The same applies to the compositions of the song Franz Weiß. The lyrics to this one I actually found a bit bizarre when Fuchs tells you how he travels through some area of Asia, I guess, with this guy called Franz, who in the end runs off with someone else's bride. I honestly don't even know what to say here. And Ich werde bleiben is the token, slow-paced, romantic ballad, something the Reiter have done cleverer and better before too. Not that this song is bad or anything, but again it feels devoid of any new ideas in comparison. At least I felt the position of the track at the end of the album was very fitting, giving the listener a sort of calm and quiet send-off. I know this isn't a phase I should probably say in a review, but I had a real problem liking this album and I couldn't really find a quantifiable reason for it. The sparks, however, just didn't really fly for me, let alone start a fire. Music-wise, for the most part, this album is completely fine, delivering you what you would expect from an album of this band, but with many tracks I had the feeling that they had done it prior in a better way already. The riffs were more playful, the compositions more creative. In the end, this album felt almost like it was created with a checklist in hand. Except from Auf und Nieder, I really didn't dislike a single song on this disc, but they also gave me overall this "I've been here before, I've heard this before" feeling. And for the most part, I've heard it better before, because I listened to their older albums. But does that ruin the album overall? Well, I don't actually think so. I think Der Rote Reiter gives you a somewhat decent vertical slice of what the band has done so far. It's a sort of best of without being an actual best of. You get a few tracks that are a bit harder, more reminiscent of their earlier works, some that aren't and fit more into their style as of late, and as mentioned, the token ballad thrown in. And the lyrics also pack far less of a punch than usual, I feel. The Reiter managed more than once to put uplifting messages in their songs, as if they wanted to reach out to the listener directly and tell them that even if you are down on your luck, you can push yourself up again. This was really uplifting stuff that they put out. On here we get the rather shallow message that freedom is a duty. Generally speaking, there are many parts on this album that come off as simple, blatant phrase-mongering in the end, speaking without saying anything of substance. Especially when looking back on their prior albums, this is just really a damn shame. So, as a conclusion, boy was I looking forward to this album, and did it turn out really ambivalent in the end for me. I think it makes a great entry point for newbies because you get a little bit of everything on this album. Even though I think they have done everything they present here better at some point, it's a good look into their style in general if you are new to them. But at least in my opinion, this is not even close to being one of their best works. It has some real gems on it though, no question. Wir sind zurück, Der rote Reiter, Brüder auf Leben und Tod are all awesome tracks in their own rights. But on the same hand, we have absolute duds like Auf und Nieder or Die Freiheit ist eine Pflicht on this album. I have as hard a time just recommending this as I have giving you solid reasons to stay away from it completely. I would still recommend other albums from the band over this one, since their past output has been more creative and showed some great lyrics, some of them even in English. I hope they find their spark back for the next release again, because when the Reiter bring their A game, they are absolutely fantastic. They will take you on an incredibly wild ride. But in comparison, Der rote Reiter, all things considered, feels more like a B-side. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like or just subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I will post at least one review per week, more content whenever I can manage to do it. You can also follow me on Facebook and or Twitter, links are in description, and also in the description you will find shopping links for this album and any relevant music videos or album streams if there are any. And if you have listened to this album, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, I hope to see you again next time. Have a nice day, Salida!